Hey, it's Jason from Pro Guitar Studio, and today we're going to take a look at how to rockify your favorite open chords. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is that because over the years, learning songs from different artists, playing many songs that have distortion, and also writing my own songs that have the same kind of stuff, it becomes apparent that your standard open chord shapes might be a little too muddy. So they might contain too much information, but have too much going on to actually be useful when you add distortion. So sometimes it can work, so the lower the gain you have, so let's say you have a distorted amp, if you have low gain or it's still a little bit broken up, like a standard G chord works there with a little bit of gain, same with C and D. But if we get a little bit heavier and we start layering things on top, it becomes a little more jumbled. Okay, so the sound of the chords becomes a little too much. So a classic band that you would hear this in is ACDC. So instead of playing a G chord, often it's like a two-finger G5 chord. Okay. Same with the D. Instead of playing a full D major, often it's a D5 chord. So basically taking one of the notes out of the mix to really make it sound fuller. Now this is different than doing your standard power chords because a 5 chord is just a power chord, and your standard power chords you'd be doing would be like G5. Instead of doing that, we can do things like to make it sound a little more suitable for our distorted sounds. Okay, so let's take a listen to this piece right here. This is something I wrote that just contains chords, just like we talked about right now, that sound good with distortion. And then I'll show you how to use those, and you can take this from there. All right, so now that you've heard the piece we're going to do today, I'll sort of dive in and we'll start talking about the chord shapes that are going to be used here and how I'm going to alter them, okay? So keep in mind the rhythm here might be the hardest part once you get into the chord shapes, but the focus is really on the chords, okay? So I will go over the rhythm, but I'm trying to really just give you an idea of the chords that I'm using here. And these are all from classic rock tunes over the years that I picked up along the way. So, for example, the A chord, instead of playing an A major where we have the second fret on second, third, and fourth strings, what I'm doing here is I'm going to bar it from the second, third, and fourth strings with my first finger. But a lot of times I'm just going to hit string 5, 4, and 3, or the A, D, and G string. Now if you add the second string in by accident or you just hit it lightly, it still sounds fine, but it's not as intense as this open chord with the open first string, okay? So I have number one with the A chord, I bar that. Now the second chord that comes in is sort of like an embellishment, and it goes back a little bit to the blues. So what I'm doing here, I'm playing an A chord, let's say 2 strums, right? And then the next chord I'm doing is a D over A, but it's a weird shape. So if you're not used to this, it may feel funky, but a lot of different classic rock bands did this. It's still useful all the time, even up to this day, right? This is in Stairway to Heaven as well. What I'm doing here, I'm going to take my first finger, keep it where it is, add my ring finger on the 4th fret of string number 4, and middle finger on the 3rd fret of string number 2. And if you're playing this from the 4th string down, the name of that chord is a D over F sharp, or a first inversion D chord. I use that all the time as well. But we're going to go from A to D over F sharp, or sort of D over A, back to A. Now if you want to simplify it and it's too hard to do that full shape, you can just do like the shuffle blues thing. So on the 5th string and 4th string. 2, 2, 4, 2 on the 4th string. That's all you have to do. Or, so adding that extra notes in makes it sound a bit more full, but this will be totally fine, okay? Either one's good. Now when I go to the G chord, what I'm doing in my example there, I use my middle finger on string number 6. I'm blocking the 5th string out. So I'm getting the power chord from string number 6, 4, and 3. Then I add my ring finger down on the 1st string. So it's a G chord but we're just playing it a little more open. And by open, I mean we're spreading the notes apart a bit. Now, you can also use your ring finger on the 3rd fret of string number 2, and that becomes a G5. And that's what you hear ACDC using in quite a few of their songs. That works great. Okay, and then the D5 chord comes in next. And I'm going to play my 1st finger on the 2nd fret of string number 3, ring finger on the 3rd fret of string number 2. And again, we're not going to hit the 1st string, so this becomes a D5 chord. Now, if you hit the A string in there as well, it's a D5 over A. It sounds really nice and full. I'm blocking the 6th string with my thumb. So I'm playing it with my ring finger on the 1st string, but if you did it with the ring finger on the 2nd string, that makes your transition easier. So just keep that in mind. That ring finger doesn't need to move. Okay, so that's the first time through. I go A, D over A, back to A, G, D, D. Now I'm adding a lot of extra scratch strums in between. And that just sort of helps the transition, but also makes it more percussive. So without those, if I add them in. All right, so that gives you an idea of what I'm doing there. Really fast down up strums as I'm muting the strings. Now for the second part, we're going to start off as the riff the exact same way. And then for the G, just go, the 2nd string is going to be easier. So I should just keep it consistent and let you know to go to string number 2 on the 3rd fret. And you'll see in probably my example, I'm all over the place. I'll do a G like this. So G5 will do it like this. I'll do it like this. Just with the one finger. It really depends on the moment, right? So all those things are used in a rock context. Sometimes my G is just middle finger. So it might seem a little funky if you watch me playing that, but just keep in mind, ring finger on string number 2. It'll make it easier as you go through. So this time, instead of going to the D5 chord, or D5 right here, I'm going to go to D over F sharp. So the A chord, D over A, G, and then D over F sharp. So the 1st finger is on the 2nd fret of string number 6, 2nd fret string number 3, and my ring finger is still on the 3rd fret of string number 2. Okay, now coming back again. Goes back to the 1st riff, and then we're going to do E minor. But this time here with the E minor, you can just hit string number 6, 5, and 4 if you want to get an E power chord. You could even bar it with your 1st finger. D or F sharp, G5, so that ring finger on the 2nd string. And then I bring my middle finger down. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to play the C note, so 3rd fret string number 5. I'm going to block out the 5th string, or sorry, 4th string, although you can put the 2nd fret on the 4th string. But I'm just blocking it out to make it a little more open. And this makes it a C sus2. I play the C note, the open G, and the 3rd fret string number 2. So, okay, and that's that chord, the C sus2. But like I said, you can play a C at 9 if you want. So from that part. There we go. Now to finish this off here, sort of some nice riffing between a B minor 7, 2nd fret string number 5, 2nd fret string number 3, and 3rd fret string 2. Now you can play the open 4th string if you want, but in a rock context, I usually just like mute it out with my 1st finger. And that's sort of the trick with a lot of these rockified open chords, is that you want to keep the chord as open as possible. So we're trying to avoid the jumble of notes. So the closer you make the notes together, when you start to mix them all together at a fast speed, it becomes hard to decipher what you're hearing. So trying to leave more space in between the notes. Like this here, I'm leaving the open 4th string out of the mix. And same when I go to the C sus2. So I'm going to go back and forth from B minor 7 to C add 9 or C sus 2. Just twice. 4 times. So 6 times, and then I do a D5. Basically 8 strums down there, all down strums. Then I run this down to fret number 7. This is like a an ACDC thing right here. So 7th fret string number 3 and 8th fret string number 2. And I'm sort of pushing that ahead. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On the 8, I'm sliding. Then I go down to the 7th fret on string number 2 and 3. You can use whatever fingers you want. You can do 2 fingers. I just borrowed it right now. And then it just goes back and repeats. So there you have it, some really classic Rockify open chords. Ton of things you can look at in here. And look at, any AC/DC tune will sort of show you the way in this sense. But other bands will do this really well. One of my favorite bands, Billy Talent, a Canadian band, the guitarist Ian Desau does some really good stuff with his open chords. So he tunes a drop D, but he spreads apart the notes really nicely in different ways that fills it out like a full chord, but you don't have that that cluttered sound of some of the standard open chords you might hear. So good band to check out if you want to hear some more of that kind of stuff. And hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy this. More lessons coming your way each week, so I'll see you soon.